Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I painted the Dominar from the Iron Golem using mostly contrast paints to a tabletop ready standard. In this video we'll go through step by step how I painted this guy, and here he is all ready to go. I've done the base already, and I've also primed the model with the Citadel colour Wraithbone contrast undercoat spray and assembled him with the Citadel plastic glue. The paints we'll be using in this video are mostly contrast paints, but we'll be doing some layer paints as well and using some of the metallic paints. And the brush I use most of the time is the Army Painter Wargamer character brush, but recently I've been moving over to the Kalinsky Synthetic No. 2 and can highly recommend that. Right, so let's get stuck in with some layer paint, which is the Pallid Wych Flesh. And this is going to go over all the skin and flesh that we can see exposed. And on the Games Workshop website, you can see an image of the Iron Golem. And here's the Dominar here, how they've painted him. And his skin's really white, really pale. But I didn't want it quite that pale. So I thought if I go for this Pallid Wych Flesh, this will be a kind of nice balance. And it's still going to look a bit ogreish, but not be overly white. So on the models I've painted before with the contrast paints, I've used like the Gilliman Flesh and the Fire Slayer Flesh and those nice tones. But this one's a lot paler, so I thought I'd try something different. So I've gone in with this layer paint first, and then we'll do a shade wash over it later on once it's dried. So it's a little bit different than the previous videos you might have seen if you watch my other painting videos, and I thought this was a nice way to go. You could also like use some of the contrast medium, I suppose, and mix that to a nice thin colour with the Gilliman Flesh, and you're going to get a real nice flesh tone there. Certainly over this Wraithbone, I think that'll work. But I like the idea of blocking in all the flesh colour with this Pallid Wych Flesh first though, and just to try something different. I've got to say I'm really happy how it turned out. I think it worked nicely. And next I took some Leadbelcher, and now we're just going to go over all the metal work. So this is a lot of painting now, all in this one metal colour. So whether it's red, gold or silver metal, every single part is going to get a nice coat, nice thick coat of the Leadbelcher. And I find that I just use one coat of this. I don't wet the paint down at all, really. Just put a bit of water on the brush just to loosen the bristles. And then that's enough, I find, to get the paint nice and thin enough to give a good coating, but not so thin that we have to do it twice. Anyway, I'm going for a tabletop ready standard here. I want this to be quite fast, but neat. So, you know, doing one coat of each paint really works for me. And so, yeah, I find that works really great. But I'm only after a tabletop ready standard, and that doesn't have to be bad. Tabletop ready, I think, can be really good. And I find that using the contrast paints over like a Leadbelcher like this works really nicely. You get some real nice metallic effects with all different colours, and it's really quick and easy to do. So here we go. I'm just colouring all this now, all the areas of the metal, which is quite a lot on these guys. There's a lot of metal going on, so I'm going to give it one nice coat all over, and then we'll go back with a Pallid Wych Flesh in case we make any mistakes and just touch that up too. So nice and easy, just take your time, get these lines really nice and neat, and if you make a mistake, don't worry, it's really easy to cover it up, as you'll see in a moment. But just finishing this bit off now, you can see there's a lot of metal going on here, and just going over these little studs that you can see coming through the arms. I'm giving those a little coat as well, and just making sure I'm being as neat as possible. And then I've gone back to that Pallid Wych Flesh, and then I'm just going to touch up the areas where I've gone over with that Leadbelcher, just so it's ready for when we put the shade over it. We don't want to see any of those mistakes coming through, and so just being really careful not to go over the Leadbelcher this time, and so just touching up those areas. And this is where I really look at the model and make sure I've got all the areas covered and everything's ready to go. And then I let that dry completely before moving on to some Agrax Earthshade, and I've used this on all the flesh areas again. So a nice generous coating of this all over, and I tend to start and finish the brushstrokes where I want most of that paint to build up. And then with the shades you can just push and pull it around with your brush wherever you like it to go. And if you notice here, I've changed brushes. I've got the Kalinsky Synthetic No. 2 now, and this can hold a fair bit more paint, which is perfect for contrast paints and shades like this, where you don't want the brush to dry out. And then, you know, these shades aren't going to dry as fast as a layer paint, you know, certainly putting on this amount. So you're going to get plenty of time to move it around and let it settle where you want those kind of darker recesses. Then I took some Null Oil, another shade, and I went over all the metal work now. And so this is going to go over all the silver areas like all the chain mail, this huge kind of mallet that he's got, this war hammer, I suppose. And then I give that a nice coat, and that's going to dirty it up a little bit. I go in here as well, so we're going to colour all this later, but I really wanted to make it nice and dirty and give it some real depth to it. And this is going to give us a nice little shadow going on. You can see I've put quite a lot on here on the chain mail. That really soaks it up, and it really wants to go into those recesses and give us a nice shadow. So I'm really putting quite a lot in there and then just moving it around until I'm happy with the finish. And then around the back as well, makes it's all got a nice cover, and you can see this is really bringing out some of the definition of the model, and a real nice way to do this. And next I'm going to take some Gilliman Flesh. This is contrast now, but this is going to go on all the areas of the metal armour that we eventually want to be that kind of reddy, brassy colour. So this is a great paint. I love using Gilliman Flesh over Leadbelcher. It gives a really nice aged metal look. But we're going to use some other colours as we go. But this is our first layer that we're going to put on this. And this is going to kind of really give it a nice tone in the background to build upon. And yeah, this is going to really give us a nice finish towards the end. Once we start adding the different colours of red and orange over this, it's going to look really nice. But you could just leave it like this. I mean, I've done this on loads of different metallic parts of different models in the past, certainly on some scenery, and I think it works great. Really nice if you want some aged looking metal. But now I'm going to take some Aggaros Dunes, and this is going to be for the gold parts of the metal. So all these like link discs of gold, and even these front ones here, I'm giving a nice layer of that. So that's going over all that, being quite generous over those bigger parts. And then on these little ones, I haven't got quite as much paint on the brush now because I've took most of it off on those links. And then just on these little raised bits as well, they're going to be that gold colour. But I'm not being super tidy here. I don't mind if a bit of this gold kind of bleeds into the areas where I've just done the Gilliman Flesh. If a little bit goes there, it doesn't matter. It's all going to add to the effect. But I'm really going and focusing on the areas like this bit on top of the helmet that I want to be like really gold and to really stand out as being gold. But yeah, all the other areas, although I'm being a little bit careful, I'm not being really like crazy and just spreading it all on, but I don't mind too much if it goes over the edges this time. And then turning the model around, just going over the back part again, really being quite generous for this section as well, because this is where we've got a lot of recesses. So this on top of that Nuln Oil we've put on, all these different colours are also going to add to the kind of shadow and really build in the recesses, so they're going to get nice and darker, and I think it works really great. But certainly if you want a gold effect, Aggaros Dunes over Leadbelcher is a great way to go. Right, now we're going to take some Gryphhound orange, and the paint stages we've previously done have completely dried now, and so now I'm just taking that Gryphhound orange and I'm just going inside the sections where we painted previously, but I'm not going over the raised areas too much now. I want those to remain quite gold, and so I don't want too much orange on those. So I'm just going in, just kind of dabbing it on, sketching it around, not putting it on thick. I'm just using it almost like a felt tip pen at this stage, going over some of the gold sections as well. And this is really going to bring out that gold rich deep colour. So you can see on these little discs I'm just putting little dots of the orange, and that's really going to deepen it, make it a bit richer. And then on the top as well, I'll go over that little bit of the helmet there, bring that out, and this is going to add to that gold effect that we're looking for. So doing these models was completely different to doing the Untamed Beasts that come in the same starter set as these. Of course you can buy them separately as well, which I did, but completely different. I'm being a lot more kind of free with my brush strokes here as I'm dotting the paint around. I don't have to be as precise. There's so much metal here, overlapping each other. I don't mind if the colours mix a little bit, and yeah, so I don't have to be as careful. But now I'm taking some Typhus Corrosion, and this is the Citadel technical paint, and this is awesome. This is really going to age the metal, and I want to kind of dirty up this hammer. I imagine it's been in a few battles, carried around and taken a few people out, so that really helps to do that. And then I wanted a nice blue to kind of break this all up, because there's a lot of golds, a lot of reds going on. I thought the blue would work really nicely. So this is the contrast Talisar blue. This is beautiful, really nice colour. And anytime you're doing like red, blue and yellow, they're all going to just work so nicely together. If you look at like colour wheels, those are the three like primary colours. They go nicely. And so we're using kind of different colours of blue and gold and red but it is just going to work. It's a real natural combination to go with. So I think using this blue really kind of mixed things up a bit and took us away from just being red and gold, and I really like that touch. So this is a great colour, but you could do anything really, you know, whichever colour you want. And of course the armour doesn't have to be that reddy colour that we see on the box either. You could choose to do any colour you like. But here we are, I'm just putting that blue on, not too thick, but enough to give it a nice rich colour. The next paint is Contrast Blood Angels Red, and this is going to be for the biggest parts of the model now that have got that red armour. So you can see I've already gone over some of the areas that have had the Aggaros Dunes and then the Gryphhound orange, and now I'm going over with the red. And again, I'm being quite sketchy and just going around quite casually, just getting it in there, trying to avoid the edges, because I want that Gilliman Flesh on the edges to come through a bit more, and that's going to help kind of break up the different sections so it's not just one pure colour all the way through. And I think this really has kind of helped to give an aged, battle-worn kind of look to the armour. So I really like how using all these different colours over each other in this sketchy way works really cool. So there I'm dotting it on, and again I'm using the bigger number 2 Kolinsky brush now, because that holds a bit more paint, gives you a bit more control. You've got a nice fine point to the end of the brush, and it doesn't dry out too quickly. So I really enjoyed painting this warband. I thought it'd be quite boring at first, metal and skin, but then trying out this new technique that I hadn't used on the other models of layering up different colours of contrast paint, but not putting too much on, just using it almost like a felt tip pen, where you're just like brushing it on in little layers of colour. I think I really enjoyed painting like this in this style, and it'd be fun to do some other models in the future like this. I think the Stormcast Eternals might benefit from this kind of layering up using different blues. So I'm looking forward to doing this again for sure, and just having that kind of freedom and more casual strokes. Yeah, I really liked it. But here we go. You can see now that stage is all done, and we could leave it there, but I figured why not just brighten it up with a little highlight of layer Stormhost Silver paint. And I've just got this terrible scruffy old brush, but I think it's really still quite soft and works great for a bit of dry brushing. So I'm working some of the paint into the bristles, then trying to get as much as I can off it on a bit of card and a bit of kitchen paper, and then rubbing that off so that it's not going to come off really heavy. Just testing it on my hand to see how much will come off. And then at first, when I first do it, I'm picking those raised areas and going quite gently at first, because I don't know how much paint's going to come off, and it's going to come back in focus. Here we go. And then once I know how much paint's coming off that, I can be a bit rougher, and certainly on those edges and the top, the very top of the model, the areas that are going to catch more light, I was going a bit more rougher then and giving that a lot more attention, and then letting it almost dries instantly, but I kind of had a look at it, left it for a few seconds, and then went back and added a bit more if I thought it needed it, kind of stood back from it a little bit, and then you can pick out the areas a bit easier. And certainly down here on that raised area of the belt, I just gave that a real light coating, and also on these raised areas too, and the mask, I want to bring that out a little bit, and then at the very tip of the helmet. But then doing that, I found I kind of took away from some of that colour that I wanted to keep in it. So I just go back now with a little bit more of the contrast Aggaros Dunes, and this wasn't planned. I didn't think I'd have to do this, but it ended up working out really nicely, because those raised areas got that highlight, and then putting a little bit more of the Aggaros Dunes on top, and not too much of it, just, you know, again like felt tip pen amount, made it a really nice effect and made it a lot brighter. And certainly on the front of the belt buckle, it made those lines stand out, and the edges of the armour on the chest plate. So that was a really nice effect. And this worked well on one of the other models that you'll see in a second that I did in the Warband too. So a happy accident, and that's really cool. So there we go, all finished though. So here he is, the Dominar, all tabletop ready, with mostly contrast paint. I was really happy how this turned out, and I really enjoyed the process of sketching those colours and layering them up. And here's the other model I did with that huge kind of shield, and that's a great example of how doing that Stormhost Silver with the Aggaros Dunes over the top can really bring it to life. And this is a great warband. You get this small dwarf, a big ogre, all the other ones, and really fun. And if you want to see how I painted the ogre breacher, I've done a video for that. And he's a lot bigger, and a good example of how to use that technique. And I've also done some bases for them, so I've done a video on that too, so you can check out how I made the bases for all the models in the Warband, and you can use the techniques in this video and those 2 videos combined to paint all the different miniatures from the Iron Golem Warband. And I'll also put links to everything we've used in this video in the description below, and there'll be affiliate links to Element Games, but they won't cost you anything extra. In fact, you can save up to 20% there on all your games products, and for every sale made for an affiliate link, I get a small commission, and that's going to help me do loads more videos like this. So thanks so much for that support. It's brilliant, and thanks, I really appreciate it. If you like this kind of content and would like to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page, and thanks to everyone who's joined so far. It's really awesome. We hang out on Discord, talk about the hobby, share ideas and help each other out, and you'll get some perks there that you're not going to find anywhere else. So I'll put a link in the description, and it'd be great to see you there. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you've got the Iron Golem, let me know if you're going to try out this technique. I was really pleased with the results. But thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.